All right, ready to go. Whew. Here we go. Well, it's almost 3 p.m. and kids are just about ready to get out of school. So, you know what time it is. Is that time for the Talk in Poncho's Palace? I am Poncho Blazing ATM, and this is the Talk in Poncho's Palace. All right, welcome to the Talk in Poncho's Palace, everybody. And today we're going to talk about why sports matters. I am so happy and thrilled to talk about this sport because I know a lot of you out there are sports fans, and a lot of you all out there love the game of sports. Now, let's talk about the NBA for just a second. Now, for the Clippers' future, what will the Clippers' future be like? Now, we know Doc Rivers is going to be the LA Clipper coach again next year, but what pieces do the Clippers need in order to be a championship material team? Well, so far they've got Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, but they need at least two good big men. Don't get me wrong. I like Zubats, and Montrezl going to be a free agent. So if they would have an effective center like they did in the past, like they did with DeAndre Jordan, I believe the Clippers would be good in the post. But the question is, will the Los Angeles Clippers get good enough piece in order to be a championship material team? Right now, the favorite for to win the NBA championship is the Los Angeles Lakers. They've got LeBron James, Anthony Davis, they got Danny Green, they got veteran in Rondo, Kyle Kuzma, Alex Caruso, you name it. And then also the Miami Heat's a pretty good set for the NBA championship team. Them and the Boston Celtics both, because the Heat and the Celtics are evenly matched. But the surprise of the NBA conference finals is the Denver Nuggets. Nobody expected the Denver Nuggets to make it to the conference finals. So this is the first time that they're in the NBA conference finals since 2009. And let me remind you, the last time that the Denver Nuggets was in the conference finals, guess who they faced? They faced the LA Lakers. And the LA Lakers went on to beat them, and they went on to win the NBA championship that year against the Boston Celtics. It would be a repeat of 2009 where the Lakers beat the Nuggets and then they face the Celtics if the Celtics make it past the Heat. But only time will tell. But when we think about sports, sports is very important. During the pandemic, oh my goodness, it was rough to watch television because there was no live sports. Sports keeps everybody's energy up, and sports electrifies people no matter what. When we didn't have college basketball March Madness this year, that was very disappointing because everybody looks forward to watch March Madness. So when March Madness got canceled, that was a bad sign for things to come. But the NBA, when they canceled its season, that really took it off. It really went worse. But thankfully, with the NBA basketball, they came back. And they've done a great job in the bubble, keeping the players hydrated, keeping the players temperature checks, making sure that their bodies is great, making sure that they're negative from COVID-19. And they pretty much just make sure that they're healthy and that they're safe. Well, with the NFL, they doing all right so far. They've kept the capacity crowd to 22%. Now, to me, that's still a lot of fans, but at least with the NFL, hey, they're working it out. And it's great to see the NFL back again because you need the NFL. You need football in your life. Now, when we think of football, the other day I was watching the legendary story of Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers. Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers are the two most legendary Chicago Bear football players ever. And it's sad how Brian Piccolo passed away. But those two put it down like no other. They represented the Chicago Bears heavily and mightily. But for the NFL, hey, you got a lot of great talent in the NFL, like Tom Brady, Drew Brees. You got a bunch of talent that's willing to work and that's willing to fight in the NFL. And just like NFL, there's college football. Now, there's like two or three conferences that canceled their season this year, but most of them are still willing to play. For example, you have the SEC, the ACC, and then you also have, I believe, the Pac-10 is still playing. But I believe the Big Ten, I believe there was one of them that canceled. But the Pac-12 is another one. But we need sports in life to help us keep our energy going. Pretty much, sports is an energy buildup. Sports keeps your body active, it keeps your body moving, and sports opens your eyes up to a lot of things. And the most famous sports ever in history is MLB baseball. MLB baseball, it's just something about the game of baseball that makes you want to sit there and watch it. Now, for me personally, I'd rather go out there and play baseball than watch it. But MLB baseball, it's another great sport, and you have to have baseball in life. Hey, I remember back in the day in MLB baseball when you had Randy Johnson, Barry Bonds, Ken Griffey Jr., you had Sammy Sosa, David Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, Mariano Rivera, Gary Sheffield, Derek Jeter, just to list the name of a few legends. But today's generation, they're hungry and they're determined to be the best they can absolutely be. And you can't put it in any other words when it comes to that. When you're the best that you want to be in sports, sports will reward you every single time. In today's generation, there's a lot of young, hungry athletes in sports. In general, sports has changed a lot over the years. For example, the NFL, they used to have a lot of rules and let a lot of things go back in the day. But due to concussions in the NFL, now we have a lot of rules and regulations, and we have limits in the NFL. Example, NBA. In Michael Jordan's era, hey, you could push and shove, you could do whatever you need to do to get the win. And when you thought about taking it to the hoop, you would either dunk it, lay it up, or shoot a mid-range jump shot. Not anymore. In today's NBA, it's all about the three-point shot. It's live and die by the three-point shot in the NBA. Now, the question is, if it was MJ's era versus LeBron's era today, who would win? It just depends on the rules. If we go by MJ's rules, where you had to foul hard and play hard, would LeBron make it to MJ's era? Now, if we're playing by LeBron's era, where you shoot the three-pointer and you work out on the cardio machine, would MJ make it through that era? Only time will tell. In MLB baseball, like I said, there's a lot of rules that's changed everywhere. And don't forget about all other sports like soccer, golf, tennis, hockey, lacrosse, just to name a couple of sports. All sports matters. Regardless of what you play, hey, as long as you play a sport and as long as you're active, that's what matters. That's today's key word for today is active. You must be active in sports. And we stress this out all the time for ex-athletes and everyone. If you're going to play a sport and you knowing that you're going to play, there is no excuse not to be in great shape. Now, if this is your first time ever playing a sport and you've never ever played sports, I could probably give you a pass on that. And they'll work with you and teach you how to get in shape and everything. But if you know how to play sports, and if you're returning to sports, you've got to be in great shape in sports in order for people to recognize you. Now, for the Clippers, they were saying in their post interview, they were saying, "Oh, well, we didn't have the team that we wanted to, and we just let it get to us this year, and we just let a lot of things get in our way and everything that caused us to lose, and we weren't focused and everything." No. Let me tell you something on that one. Yes, there are times like for the pandemic, Kobe Bryant passing away, the racism, social injustice, equal rights. We all know distractions can come. But these guys in the bubble that played in the bubble in the NBA, they had literally 4 months to prepare. They had 4 months to get in shape regardless of what situations took place. Outside distractions can come, and they will come, but you can't let that get you away from the game you love. And with the Clippers, there was no excuse on not being for the Clippers, there was no excuse on not to be ready. And this is what concerns me about the Los Angeles Clippers. Even before they had Doc Rivers and before Blake Griffin come in, the Los Angeles Clippers would do so good in the season, but yet when it comes to the playoffs, they suck completely in the playoffs. And then the Clippers want to get mad because people is talking about them about how they're not doing good in the playoffs. Well, Los Angeles Clippers, you had 3 chances to take out the Denver Nuggets. Game 5 should have been the icing on the cake versus the Denver Nuggets. You was up by like 16 or 19, but you blew the lead out, Los Angeles Clippers, because you thought you had it. Game 6, you was up by 16 and 19 in the second half. Once again, you had a chance to shut down the Denver Nuggets. But what did you do? You blew it out and you blew your chance. Okay, so here's game seven. So now pressure's on the Los Angeles Clippers to shut it down for good. Now, the Denver Nuggets has already proved that they can make it because they proved in the previous round against Utah Jazz that they can go to the next round. So now it's the Los Angeles Clippers time. And if you're a superstar like Kawhi Leonard, your mindset should be, hey, we're going to shut this team down before they even get started. We're going to make sure that they're not scoring, and I'm going to make sure that I guard the best man on there. Now, in the first and second quarter, they did multi-okay, not like they did in game five and game six, but they did multi-okay. So here comes the third quarter. Once again, it's just something about the third quarter for the Denver Nuggets. Now, the Los Angeles Clippers had a chance to go up in the lead. But what happened? Jamal Murray and Jokic started getting hot. And when Jamal Murray and Jokic started getting hot, what happened? The Los Angeles Clippers shut down, and the Los Angeles Clippers, they was out of gas. There was no excuse for the Los Angeles Clippers to lose against the Denver Nuggets, but they did. So now the Los Angeles Clippers has to refocus, and they've got to get their mindset right in order to make the championship team. But in sports in general, we all love sports. And the two most common sports is basketball and football. Without basketball and football, sports really wouldn't be as good as it is. Now, for me, my personal favorite game is basketball, and I love baseball too. But it's just something about when you watch football, the hard hitting contact, players earning their paycheck. In today's generation, it's all about the paycheck, and it's all about what you're going to do in the moment. In sports, you need those great moments in sports. And last night, for example, Bam Adebayo blocked Jason Tatum. But what makes moments, what makes great names in sports? When you have a mindset of, hey, I'm going to be the best that I can be, or hey, I'm going to be in great shape, I'm going to make sure that this play counts. Now, it's a difference between being a good player and one of the greatest players. A good player is just all about the money, it's just all about the fame. But a great player will lead your team to success every single time. A great player cares about his stats. A great player cares about the team and puts the team first. And a great player will make sure that the team is good and ready. Whether it be in baseball, football, lacrosse, soccer, golf, it doesn't matter. Sports is a key factor in the world. And we've got to have sports in the world because sports matters. Sports was very boring when it didn't happen during the pandemic. But we're still in the pandemic today. But thank God that we got sports back. We may not have the fans back in sports, but we have sports back in general. I'm so happy to see athletes coming together, not just for outside purposes, but for inside purposes. I'm so happy that they're coming together for social injustice, for racism, and I'm so happy that they're coming together being in shape. Because even though outside distractions come, even though your haters and your naysayers will come, you cannot let distractions get in the way. When you let distractions get in the way, you lose focus. But when you put your mind to it, and when you don't focus on the haters and naysayers, instead, if the haters and naysayers are saying negative things about you, just like things are popping up, hey, smile in their face, and say, "You're doing a great job commenting today, and I love you all so much." Encourage your haters and naysayers, because you know what your haters and naysayers are doing in sports? They're building you up. They're building up your resume to say, "Hey, I can do this. I'm going to win and prove me wrong once again." For example, Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray got so frustrated. Now, he could have just cussed the storm and he could have just quit. But no, Jamal Murray put his foot down and said, "You know what? I'm going to lead the team to success. I'm going to lead the team to victory." And look what happened. Now, the Denver Nuggets are in the NBA Conference Finals, getting ready to take on the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, for them, it's going to be a little bit different when they face the Los Angeles Lakers. But if somehow the Denver Nuggets and Jamal Murray get past the Los Angeles Lakers, I will be the first one to come on here in social media and apologize to Jamal Murray for doubting him against my Los Angeles Lakers. Because don't get me wrong, that you make fun of and think that is not successful is the person that is actually successful. Take a look, for example, me. Now, there are a lot of times that negative comments come my way, and there are a lot of times that people say, "Oh, you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that." Just like, for example, Q Radio 97.5. They said that show for me wouldn't last 6 months, but it lasted 4 seasons and was one of the top online social media shows of all time. And they said for me in the music industry, oh, they would give me just a year in the music industry. But it's been 9 years, and I'm now the social media and YouTube legend. And now I'm a music producer helping out younger generation in music. Now, of course, I'm young myself, but I thank God that haters and naysayers doubt me. Because when haters and naysayers doubt me, they give me free publicity. They give me a chance to work harder and a chance to move that much better. And because the haters and naysayers doubt you, let the haters and naysayers doubt you in sports. Because when they do you a favor and free publicity, other people are going to tune in to be nosy, to see what you're all about. And then other people, because they tune in, they're going to be like, well, okay, this kid can actually do something. Now, I got to give credit where credit is due to Mike Mazan and The Miz. Now, we haven't talked much about boxing and wrestling. And boxing and wrestling, both of them matter. But The Miz, 2004, he was tough enough. In 2006, he made his WWE debut. And a lot of people made fun of The Miz Zanin and said that The Miz Zanin would not even last in the WWE. Well, in 2009, he was facing his former friend John Morrison. I believe he took him on first in No Mercy and then Hell in a Cell. Now, Miz became United States champion back in August. And in Hell in a Cell, no, it was Hell in a Cell first and then Bragging Rights. The first pay-per-view he took on Morrison in Hell in a Cell, he beat Morrison. We was like, okay, all right, Miz. Okay, you're starting to prove something. Night of Champions, I believe he beat him once again. And we was like, okay. Not champions, but bragging rights. We was like, okay, Miz, all right, now you're starting to prove something. Well, the Miz became on to be a big superstar in the WWE, win the WWE Championship, win the Intercontinental Championship multiple times, and the Tag Team Championship multiple times. Let me give you another example. MVP Montel Vontavious Porter. Now, in 2006, he made his debut at No Mercy. And everybody was like, who is this man MVP? Well, JBL was like, the Teddy Long, he was like, Teddy Long better do the right thing and give MVP some competition. Here came out the Big Red Machine Kane. Kane and MVP went on to fight that next month in November. Well, here came a street fight in November between Kane and MVP. What happened? MVP beat Kane in a street fight. We was like, what? MVP beat Kane in a street fight? Now, he had help from Mr. Kennedy, of course. But MVP still won, and he won the match. That's what mattered the most. So the next week, the steel cage match, and MVP took on Kane. Now, MVP and Kane, now we all know the steel cage match is Kane's specialty. But what happened? MVP beat Kane in a steel cage match by himself. We was like, okay, MVP, now you're starting to do something. What happened? MVP went on to become one of the best stars in the WWE. What we're saying is this: you can doubt people, you can haterize on people, you can say nasty and mean comments all you want to, but when you say mean and nasty comments to those, all you're doing is motivating people. All you're doing is giving them free publicity. You know why? Because haters and naysayers, they want to be just like us that are successful. I've got more success than what I even forgot about. That's how good I am. I've got more success in my pocket than some of those haters and naysayers has got in a lifetime. That's the difference between people like me and haters and naysayers like them. Haters and naysayers will hate and they will comment on whatever because they come up with excuses not to live their life. And really, haters and naysayers come up with the greatest excuses. But I'm here to tell you, when your haters and naysayers talk about you, when they talk mean thoughts about you, when they say nasty things about you, all you can do is smile and say, hey, you doing great. Keep on commenting, keep on hating on me because you know what? My success is not going to be that much better. Hey, and haters and naysayers, they'll still keep on commenting, they'll still keep on talking and everything because they don't know what else to say. And they come up with the biggest excuses ever in history. But I'm here to tell you, when you let haters and naysayers, when you listen to them, you will never get anywhere in life. See, if I sit here and listen to haters and naysayers, then all that's going to do is that going to make me mad and upset. All that's going to do is it's going to hurt my feelings and I'm going to feel sorry for myself. But no, when you choose to do something about it, when you choose to go on and live your life, haters and naysayers got no choice but to pay attention. Now, like I said, haters and naysayers will fight. Haters and naysayers will still say something, but their words can't affect you. As long as their words can't affect you, hey, that's all that we matter. Hey, and everybody's sports matter. Basketball matters, football matters, baseball matters, wrestling matters, golf matters, tennis matters, lacrosse matters, soccer matters, and hockey matters. But what we're trying to say is this. Hey, Chantel. Hey, good to see you, Chantel Draper. Been a long time since I've seen you, Chantel, but I hope you're doing good and everything. Now, the thing is with sports is what I'm trying to say this. If you're playing sports and if you feel like that you're being haterized and you feel like you're doing the best of your abilities, hey, keep on hating. Do you know who people hate the most in sports? LeBron James. LeBron James gets criticized every single day, just like I get criticized sometimes in my talk shows and in church services and everything. But I still go on. LeBron James gets haterized every single day. He could have the best game in the world. He can have the greatest points ever, but he still gets criticized. LeBron James does. That's because people are jealous of LeBron James. And I don't blame them for being jealous of LeBron James. Now, did LeBron James take some scapegoats to get his first championship in the Miami Heat? Absolutely. Why wouldn't you want to get ahead? It's all about getting ahead. LeBron couldn't get it done in Cleveland, so he went to Miami with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh. Hey, I would have done the same thing if I was LeBron James. Because today it's all about success. It's all about championships. It's all about being legendary and being a Hall of Famer. What are you doing to win a championship? What are you doing to become a legend? What are you doing to become a bona fide Hall of Famer? For me to become a legend, I had to take criticism hard, but I improved on music, I improved on videos, I improved on the talk shows, I improved on everything. Jared Ball, I'm doing great. I'm just going over why sports matters. And there's a lot of haters and naysayers out there, Jared Ball, but you can't listen to haters and naysayers, Jared Ball. And Jared Ball, if you're in Harlan, Kentucky, let your former Harlan athletes know that when haters when haters and naysayers say something, that's motivation and free publicity. That is nobody on the phone call, by the way. But Jared Ball, let your former Harlan Kentuckians know that when the haters and naysayers come at you, hey, that's free publicity, that's motivation. Hey, and other people are going to tune in to be nosy. And other people will tune in to be nosy. Now, like LeBron James, for example, a lot of people hate and criticize on LeBron James. Why is that? Because he's a man of success. And today, LeBron James is one of the best businessmen out there. LeBron James is one of the most successful NBA players of all time, right behind Michael Jordan. Hey, man, you can't let the haters and naysayers get to you, my man. Hey, that's like me, for example. What did it take for me to become a social media and YouTube legend? For me, it took a lot of hard work in music. It took a lot of hard work to minister, get the gospel of Jesus Christ out there, a lot of work for Q Radio 97.5, and a lot of work for everything. But I must say this: haters and naysayers will never get anywhere in life as long as they criticize. Hey, but we need haters and naysayers in life. We need people that are going to cheer for sports, and we're going to need people that boo in sports. That's just the way it goes. Without our haters and naysayers, we wouldn't in sports have motivation to keep on going in sports. You see, if we had people cheer for us all the time, there would be something wrong. But you need those haters and naysayers. You need those naysayers to cheer, to boo you all the time. The reason why you need those haters and naysayers is because that's motivation. What do you think in villains in wrestling? Villains get booed all the time, but do they whine and complain about it? No, they don't whine and complain about it. For example, Baron Corbin, Triple H, Ric Flair, the Iron Sheik, some of the biggest villains of all time. Do you think they had time to whine and complain and go over of what bad statuses were? Man, no. Hey, man. Hey, I'm glad you said NASCAR because I forgot about NASCAR. NASCAR is one of the biggest sports too. There's Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart, and Danica Patrick, and Bubba Wallace. NASCAR is one of the most greatest round-around sports. But if you're going to talk about NASCAR, we got to talk about monster trucks. I mean, monster trucks right there with those big wheels and everything. Those monster trucks, they be ready to go. Hey, y'all, let me know if I forgot a sport because I think I got most of the sports already. Wait, I forgot. There's CrossFit, and then there's a weightlifting contest. Hey, you can't forget about those weightlifting contests, and you can't forget about CrossFit. But what I'm trying to say is this. In sports is awesome. Sports is the reason why that we have life. Sports is the reason why that we have energy. And sports builds up our stamina. Rugby. Hey, man, Nick Brown, man, you've been such a great person to help, my man. Nick Brown, you know what? I'm starting to appreciate you that much more, Nick Brown. Man, kudos to you, my man. Shout out to you, brother. Hey, Chantel, I'm definitely a big fan of sports, too. My favorite sport is basketball and football. Lumberjack. I forgot about lumberjack tournaments. Hey, but if you're going to talk about lumberjack tournaments, let's talk about dodgeball and man, that dodgeball. I know a lot of us played dodgeball back in the day. Oh my goodness, dodgeball was something else right there. Especially in school when we used to throw the dodgeball at each other. Oh, that was great. But the legendary kickball was another one. Not only kickball, but also rugby. Like you said, rugby was a good sport. And then cornhole. Cornhole was a great sport. But what is your favorite sport? If you got a favorite sport and you'd like to comment it on here, hey, definitely, man, favorite sport. Hey, I'm down for a game of dodgeball any day. It's been a long time since I played dodgeball, but dodgeball gets your energy up like no other. Hey, basketball is definitely my favorite sport. But what is you all's favorite sport out there in the world? Do you have a favorite sport? And if you do have a favorite sport, do you have a favorite sport athlete? I'll tell you who my favorite sport athlete is of all time. My favorite sport athlete of all time is Michael Jordan, hands down. The reason why Michael Jordan, because he was motivated and he would not stop until he get the win. Right behind Michael Jordan for me would have to be Dwayne the Rock Johnson. He's now a big Hollywood star. And do you know when you're in sports opens up the opportunity for you to do different things. For example, The Rock. When The Rock was in wrestling, he was one of the first ones to actually open up the doors to Hollywood. Yeah, you had Hulk Hogan to do movies before The Rock, Andre the Giant. You had a couple other wrestlers that did movies before The Rock, but nobody really took Hollywood to the next level like The Rock did. Now, when The Rock became a Hollywood star, that opened up the doors to all other wrestlers. For example, Stone Cold Steve Austin, John Cena, Randy Orton, even Ted DiBiase Jr., The Big Show, and Triple H. Hey, now Emmitt Smith, I'm gonna tell you something. Emmitt Smith, one of the most all-time legendary football athletes ever. Emmitt Smith put it out there. Him, Jerry Rice, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, and don't forget about Randy Moss, Reggie Miller, and Jamal Lewis. Don't forget about those names. And like I said, Brian Piccolo and Gale Sayers, those are also some great athletes. But if we're going to talk about legendary football players, we must talk about the legendary Brett Favre. Brett Favre put it out there, man. Brett Favre for the Green Bay Packers, oh man, his arm was like out there when he threw it. But sports will always be a part of life. There's a couple things you can't get rid of in life. There's really two things you can't get rid of in life, and that's sports and music. Sports and music got to be the top two things in life. Hey, now MC Hammer, definitely a great rapper of all time. We're going to talk about music on episode number 12. But for sports is definitely legendary. And I thank God for sports every single day. I thank God that I played sports that I was able to. Now in 2016, unfortunately, I did have to retire. But that's beside the point. Bo Jackson was pretty good. I got to admit about Bo Jackson, though. I got to respect Bo Jackson. But I definitely want to thank you all for tuning in to the Talking Poncho's Palace. And like I say, haters and naysayers, they will come. Haters and naysayers will talk bad about you. Haters and naysayers are going to have something negative to say. The reason why haters and naysayers in sports are hating is because they wish they was like athletes. And honestly, to be honest, sports does teach us a lot. When you lose, you get back up. And sports does teach people how to accept losing. But oh my goodness, sports will always be a part of life. And then the marching band in sports, especially in big cities, marching bands are very, very important. Now, in the counties, we really don't care about marching bands, but in the city, they be lit up with the marching bands. So, sports matters because it builds up our energy. Sports matters because we need salvation in sports. We need excitement in sports. And we need something to build our stamina up. But to any sport athlete out there, when your haters and naysayers talk bad, when your haters and naysayers talk nasty, and mean comments, use that as motivation. Use that as to say, you know what? You may talk bad about me, but I'm going to get back up, get in great shape, and I'm going to prove you wrong. Just like Jamal Murray, he proved everybody wrong against the Los Angeles Clippers and Utah Jazz. And like I said, if Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets, if they beat the Los Angeles Lakers and move on to the NBA Finals, I will be the first one to come on here and apologize to Jamal Murray and the Denver Nuggets. But that is all the time that we do have for the talk in Poncho's Palace. Be sure to tune in later on today at 6 o'clock, because at 6 o'clock we're going to be back on here with the talk in Poncho's Palace. And in episode 12, we're going to talk about music. But for episode number 10, what to talk about in episode number 10? Oh, I got it. For episode number 10, we're going to talk about schools and why do schools matter in episode 10. Tune in at 6 o'clock for that episode of the Talk in Poncho's Palace, because that's an episode that you don't want to miss on why schools are important and why we need schools in general. But we will see you all back at 6 o'clock today. Keep blazing, always have God in your life, and remember, it's always about the impact.